Welcome to I'm an Asset podcast. I am your host, Dr. Breanne Smith.
And I'm your other host, Zachary Wilson. Today we have a very exciting announcement. It's our first episode of the new year. We made it to another year. And
Yes.
that means my time with this this podcast series is about halfway up. Because we started about halfway through last year and we were going to go to that point. So we're about halfway there. And I'm excited. I was actually talking to my brother the other day about how he's going to do it and how we're going to keep it going. And maybe I'll make some guest appearances throughout the year. We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
But
we'll have to virtual you in at some point. Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see how he takes this.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as today's episode is concerned, we're talking about financial goals. Now, we did talk a little bit about some other categories of goals in our last episode, planning for the new year. And this is on this, we're filming this on the 2nd, January 2nd. So hopefully we get it out in time so you can set some New Year's goals, financial goals.
Yeah. So happy New Year. I think we ended 2024 with planning for the new year. Mm-hmm. And we talked about 5 categories, which I think are, nice categories to start with as far as planning goals for a new year. But we didn't talk about financial goals. I think we're going to talk about that today and just give it its own episode.
Yeah. So why do you think financial goals are important to have? And what are some generally good ones you can set for yourself?
Well, I think it's important to have financial goals in general because I think there's always room for improvement. I think a lot of people, if you're not thinking about your financial goals more holistically, you really might just be focused on the income level. So how much income you're making. But financial success involves more than just bringing in the money, but also managing it, saving it. How are you spending it? And those things are good to have some consideration in advance on before you just blow through the year. Sometimes, especially if you're pretty comfortable financially, sometimes your spending can just get away from you because you're comfortable enough you don't feel like you have to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. A primary example of this would be subscriptions.
Yeah.
I mean, those stack up over time. And if you're not paying attention, you might have excessive subscriptions for things that you don't even use or need or are aware of if you're not paying attention. So there's some things to think about.
Yeah. And I did a little research. By that, I mean, I looked up the definition of finance, which says the management of large amounts of money. And I think this is kind of, when it comes to finance outside of purely your income, I like to think of it as like work smarter, not harder, because you can work a lot and you can get a lot of money from just working your butt off on a full-time job. But if you take a little bit of time to maybe invest some of that money and you're careful with what you're doing with it, it can go a lot farther. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the whole point of today's episode.
Okay.
It's talking about some ways you can do that.
But, in the areas of personal finance, which, in talking about financial literacy being one of our aspects of personal capital that we're trying to focus on in this podcast, it doesn't necessarily have to be large amounts of money. In fact, it's the money that you have responsibility over. And I think it's good to be a good steward of your money, even if you wouldn't consider it large amounts.
That was, I entirely agree. That was just the definition that I copied here from the internet.
Yes. Very good. Well.
But I agree. It doesn't have to be, it can be any amount of money you're managing.
So do you have some financial goals this year?
I definitely want to learn more about investing, which I'm currently pursuing that task today. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about some different kind of investing and just kind of right now I have some ways I'm getting my investment money, and I want to do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of need to figure out on my own time, kind of set how much of that I'm going to commit to investing, and how much of that am I going to use for like general spending, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just have to move stuff around, you know.
Yeah, I think it's good to have a good starting place and maybe look at your spending on a month to month basis, is what's discretionary and what's necessity. So you could basically put your spending into two categories, which is, bills that have to be paid. And if you don't pay them, somebody's going to come knocking on your door or send a letter.
That's true. Or the
Or
power will go out.
other spending, which you do have control over. So bills, I would say you don't necessarily have control over, unless, like you said, power bill, maybe you can watch, turning the lights off or running the water or whatever. But that's not really necessarily what I mean. Like, someone is looking for the payment of that bill on a monthly basis, and it is something you don't have any control over. The discretionary spending you do, which areas here would be like subscriptions or your eating out or your grocery bill or, shopping, areas like that you have. And then there's also this other bucket of saving. So you want to base your saving a percentage based on a goal, like I would say initially, and then look at if it fits in your budget between necessity and discretionary. There's also that other bucket of giving away. So many people like to also consider in their budget a percentage to either give to church or nonprofits every month as well.
Yeah. I think this is just how I would look at it. Just to make it a little easy, this is what makes sense in my brain, is having a want and a needs category. Because you would certainly want to address, like bills, like you said, food, shelter, basic, like the basic survival needs of a human being. And then, like a car too. If you need a car to work, and you need to work to keep bringing in money, a car is going to be more of a need kind of thing. And then the wants, like you said, are discretionary spending. That stuff you don't necessarily have to do, but you like to do with your money. And I might even put like the being generous and the giving away money in the want category, because I would probably need to establish the needs first before I could go out and give away money. So, and the thing you said about categorizing your income, I've heard of, there's like a 70-20-10. Have you heard of that?
I have heard this, yes.
I think different people would use, different numbers depending on them. It just depends from individual to individual. What would you say about that?
Well, is the 70-20-10, you're talking about 70% of your income is spend, 20% save, 10% charity.
I believe that's, the ratio,
Yeah. I actually don't disagree with the 20% mark. I think 20% savings is a goal to get to. I've done a fair amount of research on saving for retirement, and an interesting article that it's a very old article, but it's very, very true and interesting in that, you just basically do all of this math based on risk, age, savings percentage, and how successful people are in retirement and paying for their, retirement spending. And this research paper showed that, a majority of people save less than 5% of their income for retirement, but you really need 15 to 20% to be more on the successful level of funding your retirement. And no amount of under savings or no amount of risk that you could take later on in life because you didn't save now, no amount of risk later will overcome the fact that you haven't been saving all along. So it's not like you can not save in your 30s, not save in your 40s, and then start saving in your 50s and just be really risky with your investment to get to your retirement goal because you haven't been saving all along. No amount of risk later in life will overcome the lack of saving. And the recommended percentage in that paper, which worked out mostly for the successful side of retirement spending, was the 15 to 20%. Now, think about it too. If you work for an employer who's also matching your retirement savings, you can include that in that 20% if you have an employer who's also helping you save.
Okay. So when you say risk, you mean like how sometimes investments can be higher risk, higher reward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I've heard some things about if you start like putting your money in an IRA or like a compounding thing when you're younger, it can be like a lot when by the time you retire. So the earlier you start, the better.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and it's actually, I don't know if you've ever heard the rule of 72. It's basically just a rule of thumb in the advisory world, but it really shows that the fastest you can get to 100,000 in savings, the more successful, like the quicker you'll get to the $1 million mark. So if the rule of 72 at 6% interest rate, if at 30 years old you have $100,000, rule of 72 says your money doubles every 10 years. So at 40 you'll have 200. At 50 you'll have 400.
Okay.
At 60 you'll have 800, and at 65 you'll have $1 million.
And that's in just your savings, like your investments?
Investments, yeah. Earning 6%, an average of 6% in a 10-year time frame, yeah.
Okay, cool. I would say I'm going to put this out there and you tell me if you think this is a good idea or not. What would you, if someone was in my position, or not necessarily my position, let's say you're bringing in income, but you're still dependent because I have a job, but I still live in your house and you still pay for most of my food. What would you say to someone who kind of has all those basic needs met by their parents because they're still living with their parents, but they have an income? What would that ratio look like for dividing up your money? Because I remember when we first went over this ratio thing in my class, I was thinking I could probably save like 60 to 80% of my money and then tithe another 10 or whatever, and then only spend 10% because I'm not a big spender. I got gas. Sometimes I'll go to like Chick-fil-A or something. Can I get a name in? Or Starbucks, I don't go to Starbucks, but that's what some other people my age do.
Yeah.
But you could probably invest more of your money because you don't need all of it to be liquid. You're depending on your parents. What would you say about that?
I think this is a good question. I would say a lot of kids your age don't think about that. And so that in itself has got you really set up for success. But I think it is important to save. It is important at this age, you have a job, so you can have an IRA. I think you would benefit from setting up an IRA and starting to put some of your money away in it. Probably not all of it, even though you could max out definitely an IRA this year. That would lock up all of your money into an IRA.
Yeah.
So we might want to look at it from a percentage standpoint. But, and I got to be real careful about giving any kind of financial advice here because I'm an advisor, but just in general, education, for education purposes, the amount of money that you put away into an IRA will be there until you are 59 and a half. So you are locking it up until your retirement age. And you can't get to it without penalty. And the penalties are hefty. It's a 10% penalty to take your money out of an IRA before you're 59 and a half. So you do want to make sure you have enough outside of the IRA to cover what you might need. And you saving for your education can't use IRA money to pay for your education.
Exactly.
And I know you're trying to save for the next 4 years. So you also want to be able to get to it if you need it. So there are other savings type ways to still earn a little bit of money on your savings, but not lock it up in an IRA. And I think for you and other kids your age would want to think the same way, especially if they're trying to pay for their own college.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring that up because there are like short-term investments and long-term. And a short-term investment might be described as like putting money in the stock market and being able to take it out, relatively quickly compared to like an IRA. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, let me clear some things up about what you just said, because an IRA is a shell around your investment. So if you opened up an IRA, Zachary, the money inside the IRA could be invested in the stock market.
oh, okay.
So it could be invested in many different kinds of things. So the shell of an IRA around your account actually gives it some tax benefits, which is that it can grow tax-free while it's in the shell of an IRA. And depending on what kind of IRA you have, it's either taxed up front or taxed on the back end when you pull it out in retirement. So that's the difference between a traditional and a Roth IRA. If you put money in a traditional IRA right now, you get a tax deduction right now for that. Tax benefit now. It grows tax-free. But when you pull it out in retirement, that's when it's taxable. It's the opposite for a Roth. You don't get the tax deduction now. You put after-tax money in it. Grows tax-free, but when you pull it out in retirement, it's not taxable.
Mm-hmm. I meant more like, well, I just wanted to bring this up. I think, what would you have to say about investing short-term and long-term when you're kind of about to go into college? And it's like someone in my situation.
Yeah, so I still think the misconception here might be I can't put it in the stock market, or I can, depending on if it's a short-term, long-term. You can put your money into the stock market, or even, not just stocks or equities, but also like fixed income investments like bonds and corporate instruments. But the ETFs, mutual funds. But what you want to consider if it's short-term or long-term is how much risk you're going to take. So you can be riskier or less riskier in a mixture of your investments. So you could be more conservative or more aggressive. So what I would say to someone your age is you have a long working life ahead of you. You are going to work for, God willing, the next 60, 70 years.
I don't want to work that long.
Anyway, a long time, 30, 40 years maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing about the money that you invest is you can actually take on more risk if you can stand it, because even if you invest and you lose everything, you have a long time ahead of you to earn more money, earn more money, earn more money. You think about somebody who's 63 and they lose everything. Well, they only maybe have a few more years they were going to work and earn more money. So you want to be more conservative the closer you get to spending your investment. So if you are saving up money that you're planning to spend in a year, you probably don't want to be very aggressive with that investment because you're planning to spend it soon.
Okay.
If you're putting money in an IRA, which you literally can't touch till you're 59 and a half, you could be pretty aggressive with that money because you're not going to spend it for a very long time.
That's true. Okay. I see I see what you mean now. So you mentioned some corporate instruments, mutual funds, bonds, stocks, ETFs. I know a little bit about some of that stuff, but what I wanted to talk a little bit more about is crypto. So we don't have time today to go too much into it, but could you kind of just tell me what is the purpose of crypto? Like, what is the idea behind it? Why do people give money to this?
Indeed. This is a good question. So there is some controversy about crypto being an investment or not an investment. And I've done some research on this too. You can check out.
Oh, it's not an investment?
It's not an investment according to the SEC. It's not a stock.
Oh,
Let me be
okay.
more clear. Cryptocurrency is not considered ownership in a company.
Well, we're talking about investments today, so should we even talk about this today?
Well, we should.
Okay.
Talk about it because I've done a good amount of research on cryptocurrency as far as how investors feel about their money and their risk, and what investing in cryptocurrency has them confident or not confident in the actual equity and stock market. So I think your generation of investors that is familiar with cryptocurrency has a little bit different of a perception about the stock market and how it works because of the way the crypto market works, and they're completely different. Completely different. So let me explain. Let's just say a stock like Apple. Apple is an actual company that has employees, is publicly traded, so you could go out and buy ownership in that company, and or any other public company, because those shares of stock in a company are publicly traded. So you can go on a stock exchange and buy a share of Apple. And then how an investor makes that decision is they look at the outlook of how Apple might do in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And you might be interested in investing in a public company because the future prospects of the earnings of that company are good, and you have financial statements to look at to see that the history of those earnings is there. And it even says in the financial statements what's to come. And you can project what you think you would earn on that money. Cryptocurrency is not a company. It's not ownership in the company. It's not publicly traded. So there is no IPO, initial public offering, where the SEC comes in and looks at this company and says, yes, you can, for the good of the public, we're going to look at it, make sure everything's good, and then you can go out and be a publicly traded company, and then the general public can buy these shares. No, they are not regulated by the SEC yet. And there's been some controversy about a few different coins that look like stock. And the SEC has come in and gone back and forth with some of these different companies. And the most recent one escapes me. And for a while, because I can't think of which one it is, I had some of it actually
Ethereum,
a few years
Solana,
ago.
Bitcoin.
No.
What are some other ones?
But for a while, because there was some controversy with the SEC about whether it was a stock or not,
Okay.
it was not tradable in the U.S. for an extended amount of time. And so but they're not ownership in a company. So you might ask, what are people buying then?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the interesting part of it, is that a company comes out with a white paper, a proposal of how they're going to create a software, create a tool, create some kind of community something. And a community gets behind this coin, and these coins have websites, blog posts, pages on Reddit, and you can go on CoinMarketCap and look at the communities behind each of these coins, and it's like it's completely different because you're not buying a coin because of a financial statement that says a projection. You're buying it because you like it. You like what they stand for. You like their idea. You like their project that they're going to put together. And it's not regulated. And many have gotten in trouble for just collecting everybody's money and doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a sort of crowdfunding, but it's not ownership at all. You don't get to vote. You don't get dividends. You don't get any kind of income on it. What you are hoping for is the value of it to go up so that you can sell it for a gain. But it's wishy-washy, very volatile. So what drives the value in a crypto is very different from what drives it in a company.
Can I ask this? This might help clarify the purpose behind it. Who is getting the money? Does the creator of the coin get money at all?
Yeah, so
if they buy their own coin and
yeah. Well, there definitely is. And what's interesting about cryptocurrency is the whole premise behind it originally came out in 2008, 2009 by a mysterious person named Satoshi Nakamoto. And he wrote a paper. You can look it up on CoinMarketCap. It's also all over the internet. It's like 4 or 5 pages long where he creates blockchain. And his reason behind wanting to create blockchain is to take out the intermediary of the bank, because exchanging money is too time consuming and expensive. So for example, you go to Starbucks, for example, and you get a cup of coffee and you pay with a card. Starbucks doesn't actually get your money today. It's going to be 3 days probably before they get it. The merchant company gets your money right away. They charge a fee for that little computer, and then they give Starbucks the rest.
Okay.
So Satoshi Nakamoto says this medium of exchange, with the merchants being the intermediary between me and you, is too expensive, and the 3-day turnaround.
Yeah.
So he's trying to take intermediaries out. And the reason we need intermediaries is because of a trust issue. So how do I know that I'm going to get your money unless it's cash? How do I know that I can trade with you, like eBay, for example? I don't even know you. You're across the country. How can I trust that I'm actually going to get the money from you? Well, there's an intermediary that's going to make sure the transaction goes through. Well, so since we need trust for a financial transaction to work, we need intermediaries, banks, custodians, merchant companies. So this paper says we're going to take trust out of the system. We're going to use blockchain, which is it's like one source of truth across all nodes in a system. And we're getting a little technical, but it
keeps track of everything.
The backfiring of it to me is you actually, if you think about it, with all the cryptocurrency that there is now, you do need trust. You still need a medium of exchange, because the average person like me and you are not going to build a mining machine in the office at home and mine a coin. We're going to go onto an exchange that makes it easy, an app that mines it for us, or that holds it for us, or that gets it for us, now charges fees. Coinbase is a perfect example. Still takes a few days to get your money. And so you still need an intermediary for the average person to participate. And the people who are building the coins, you don't know these people. You don't know the founders. So you still need trust in this system that was created to be trustless. Yeah, it's fascinating. We could talk for hours
So
about
people
this.
kind of just throw their money at these things.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this ad, even like people have enough money to spend on ads for cryptocurrency for like these meme coins that are like, they're not even like an organization that stands for something. It's just this funny meme.
Hype. Yeah, it's hype. Yeah,
And
it's news.
But people actually make money from this?
Yeah.
The reason I asked about the creator making money earlier is because I heard from someone that it's possible for the creator, once the coin's value goes up enough, to just pull the rug and then just take all the money.
And this has happened a few times.
Okay.
Yes. And there's
and
been
they can't
court
get in
cases.
trouble for it because it's not regulated.
Oh, they absolutely can get in trouble for it. Yeah.
Then what? How do they do it?
Well, I mean, people are doing it, which is why it's not, in my opinion, a place that you want to be investing money that you are saving for your future or for something that you need to spend. Cryptocurrency is like going to the casino. It's like gambling. It's very volatile. There's not really, and this is a controversial issue. So this is a hot take. I think if you're planning for your future, you don't want to put cryptocurrency in your retirement plan. It's for fun. Now, have I played around with it significantly because I find it fascinating and it's fun? And I started in on it years and years ago because I wanted to know how it worked. And I did research on crypto and I, played around with it, but it was never a part of my financial future plan. It was just for fun, like a hobby. Now, I know several people who have made a bunch of money with crypto, and it's because, it's happened for some people. I have also known many people who have lost a bunch of money. So, and for someone who's not in it every day, looking at it like a day trader, I wouldn't mess with it.
It's good to know. I definitely know more about it, and I have a different outlook on it now. But that doesn't mean I won't try it. I think I might mess around with it like you did. Can I ask, have you made a little bit of money from it?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we definitely kind of got off on a tangent there, but I did want to talk about that a lot today, so I'm glad we did. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you can take some of this and utilize it. Do remember, we're just kind of talking here. She's a professional, but this isn't like...
I'm also a professor, and we do talk about crypto in class quite a bit too, because I do think it's important for everybody to know the difference between what it is and what an actual ownership in a company is. They're very different, but there is a common misconception about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we kind of, that's a good start to the new year, and I can't wait to see what it has to offer. I hope you guys had a new year, a good, happy new year, and
we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.